you see a long hallway that's paved in stone. It's 10 feet wide, about 50 feet long. Dust covers the floor. What do you do?
We check for traps.
As you search for traps, the only thing you notice is some of the mortar and caulk from the stone has cracked and falling out onto the stone floor.
Okay.
But nothing else of suspicion.
Okay, kind of like crumbles of mortar between the stones falling. Okay, well, we walk in the room.
Okay, so as you get about 20 feet into the room, you hear a click, and the floor drops from underneath your feet, and you fall into a 20-foot deep pit.
Aww.
You take 8 points of damage.
Yay. A trap.
Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
And in this episode, traps and locks. Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
And in this episode, traps and locks in your adventures.
Cool.
So traps and locks are kind of an age-old thing in Dungeons and Dragons and other RPGs.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to come up almost all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, I know that you've been gaming for a while, so I was going to ask you if the earlier game versions that you played, did they already have a bunch of traps?
Oh, yeah.
Did they traps and locks
Oh,
in them?
yeah. In the store-bought modules that TSR put out or anybody else put out, or even the ones that we created, they all had traps.
Really?
Because traps are an age-old thing with, the Egyptian tombs and,
Sure.
and the Mayan tombs.
Sure.
And, the ancients.
Yeah.
They would trap to protect the treasures that they protected, or maybe the body that was laying there.
Yeah. I mean, Gygax and Arneson must have been thinking about this all the time when they were thinking about Castle Siege and the first versions of Dungeons and Dragons. They must have been like, okay, what kind of nefarious traps can we put in these tunnels to trip people up or to add to their roleplay experience? So, where did they get their ideas from? Well, probably from history. The Egyptians had those sand traps inside some of the tombs to protect the place from tomb raiders. Or they
blocks
had
that would fall down on
blocks
top
that
of
would fall, collapsing roofs, walls, collapsing staircases. That comes from antiquity, and it's a known fact that a lot of those people, tomb robbers and stuff, were caught in those. So they must have had those ideas, and they brought those into the role-playing experience, which is pretty cool.
So you could take the whole aspect of King Tut and the curse of
then,
King Tut. That would be a trap in itself.
So yeah, I was going to ask you. So that's not a mechanical trap, but it's not a tangible trap. So it's kind of an intangible trap.
Yeah.
But yet, think about it. There's a curse, so it's a magic trap, and there are magic traps, all kinds of magic traps of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think people, if you want to construct a dungeon, or a tomb, or a temple, or even a tower, your ideas for putting in traps are limitless, really. If they just follow your imagination, how far you can go with it.
Yeah, and how deadly you want to make them.
Exactly.
So traps, there are those people who don't believe in traps. That they feel that in a dungeon, why would you have a trap that all your minions are going to now have to disarm or void to get around?
Well, I mean, why would you have it? Because it adds to the role-playing experience. And it's a creative outlet for the DM, and it makes it fun. I mean, why else would you have it? I mean, come on, we all know the thing from Indiana Jones, where Indiana Jones is like, doing that on the thing, and grabs the idol, and then all of a sudden everything goes...
Right.
Yeah, it makes it exciting and fun. Why else would you have it in there?
Yeah.
I mean... That's kind of what it is for role-playing games, to make them exciting.
Yeah. Now, another great one from Indiana Jones is from the Last Crusade. There's the footsteps. He's got to spell out Jehovah's name, and he steps on the J thinking
Yeah.
You know, Jehovah's name starts with a
Yep.
J, and
Yep.
he almost falls through, and he's
That's
like, that's right. Jehovah doesn't start with a J.
That's true. Yeah, I remember that. That's when they finally get to the tomb there at the end where they've got the chalice,
Yeah.
the Holy Grail.
A penitent man may pass.
Yeah.
You know, so he's got to duck
He's
at the
gotta
right
duck
time.
at the right
Under the
time.
breath of God, a penitent man must pass.
Yeah,
so.
because they're with the
blades.
the blades, and then they had like in the first Indiana Jones there was all the blowgun traps. It was like blowing
Yes.
all the blowguns. So, you know, we've had some experience with traps in our Pathfinder games that we've played in D&D before.
And not just mechanical or magical traps, but creature traps, like a mimic.
Yeah, a mimic. In a role-playing game that we were deep into a sewer underneath the city, and we were trying to find the source of these, you know, attacks. I think they were like rat people or something like that, or rat plague people.
Yeah, I can't
really
remember what they were.
I can't remember the villains in that game. It was
Moon rats. I think they were moon rats.
Moon
And
rats.
they were intelligent.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I remember that. And we came across a crate that was in a room all by itself, and we were like, well, that's pretty odd, you know. And it turned out to be a mimic. We caused it to reveal itself as a mimic. So everybody wanted to kill it, but I thought it would be interesting if we could negotiate with the mimic and ask it to cover our backs as we were going down these tunnels to keep people from coming at and attacking us from the rear. And so I asked the DM, Delaney wasn't DMing, he was another DM. I asked the DM, you know, what's its alignment? You know, is it intelligent enough? And he said, yeah,
somebody did a detect alignment.
yeah, and it's basically chaotic, not evil, not good, but you know, in the middle, neutral, but kind of like chaotic neutral.
Right.
And he said, yeah, it's intelligent enough. You can negotiate with it. So I was like, okay, what does it want? Let's negotiate with it. Well, you know, we had a couple traditional people in our group who just basically blew up at the whole idea that I would dare to try to negotiate with a mimic to try to, you know, form some kind of a loose alliance with it to get it to watch our back. And so, of course, their whole thing was, let's go to destroy it. And it turned out to be like this big slaughter fest. People got injured, and I was just like, this is stupid, man. Why didn't we try to do something besides just fight it? You know,
right.
And that was a really interesting trap that he had there. You know, I thought it was really cool, but I thought it was kind of interesting to deal with it in a different way. So, you know, you have those traps like that might make you try to think your way in and out of them, rather than just running at them with a hammer and just beating on them. You know, I'll beat myself through this door, pow, pow, pow. You know, it's like, wait a minute, why don't we go back and check for locks, like special locks. You've had those before in your game, where we've had special locks on some doors that we've had to do things with.
Yeah, you know, and those, you know, you have your thief roll your dice and determine if it's locked, and maybe it's trapped as well. Maybe it sends a poison needle out and pricks the thief if he fails the save, and now he's got to make a saving throw for poison or take damage or even die if he, you know, not quick enough.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's trying to pick it and it sets off another lock behind him, shutting in, and then the walls close in, or the ceiling starts coming
down.
Or maybe the floor opens up underneath of you.
Well, there's that. I mean, in another campaign we had a water trap.
Yeah.
Where a room started to fill with water. Well, I had a cleric at that time. I was playing a high-level cleric, and the cleric could shape water. And I think he ended up squirting the water that was coming in through an opening in the wall, and it drained the water trap, and we were able to get out of it. We were lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
It was a simple trap, and I think Delaney put it in there just to make us start thinking about being a little more careful in this building or whatever we were in. And then we've had dart traps and lightning bolt traps that have gone off.
Magical traps, whether it's lightning bolts or fireballs or magic missiles or acid splash or whatever. One of the ones I remember most was the compacting wall. That's a trope in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, that's a classic.
You know, it closes in and starts to smash.
Yeah. And
the way it was set up was the lead person would get through, and then the back person would be safe. And those in the middle got stuck, and the walls would start crushing in, and the way out, here's the people in the middle trying to figure out how to get out, and the trick was the first person in the lead finds a little hole that they have to stick their hand in and give blood, so they take damage to release the party.
I remember that.
You know, are you willing to sacrifice to keep your party alive?
Yeah, that was really scary because it was a timed trap. You had to get out of it in time before it crushed you, and I think you had a certain number of rounds where the trap was lasting, and if we didn't get out of it
Actually,
in time
a set
enough,
timer.
Oh, you had a set timer.
I had a set timer.
Yeah, I remember that, and that was really stressful because we were trying to figure out how to get out of there. So,
which then incorporates the people on the outside of the trap. What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
You know, what are you doing?
How do you help your friends?
Yeah. There's the age-old one where somebody's the thief who wants to steal the gems, and we had a temple. And it was in that same temple.
Yeah.
They had something similar to the guy we hear from first edition, had gems and rubies, and the thief in the party decided he wanted to go steal them. And when he did, it activated. He desecrated the temple and set off terracotta soldiers, which were actually skeletons in terracotta armor.
Yeah.
Along the walls, and then they had to fight their way out and get out.
Yeah, they weren't stone constructs or stone golems or stuff like that. They were actual warrior skeletons, enchanted warrior skeletons inside terracotta armor that came to life and attacked us. And I remember that was a hard fight. Again, we had the kind of character who basically, one of the players who basically was just going to do any kind of roguey stuff. Greed he could possibly do to get away with it. And he caused us nothing but issues in a couple of those games. And, sometimes his character ended up dying, too. Yeah. So you're really good at coming up with traps and puzzles and locked doors and stuff. So where do you get some of your ideas at?
Oh. I have some age-old books. And I really haven't pulled these out in a long time. Grimtooth Traps and Grimtooth Traps 2, or Traps.
A Game Master's Aid for all role-playing systems.
Yeah. These are generic books that I've had since 1980, 81. And these are traps that are rated from 1 skull to 5 skull. 5 skull is like death.
So they have really good illustrations in here. I mean,
They're fun. They're real fun.
This is a really cool one. So this is a 3 skull, but this is the classic sloping floor. So the person who walks in walks down the floor like that, and they get to the end, and all of a sudden the floor raises up, and they slide down into this part of the floor, and they fall in, and then the floor comes back up and resets itself. It's one of those haunted house kind of traps that, it's like, hey, wasn't Ralph here just a minute ago? Where'd Ralph go? That kind of thing. And it's really kind of cool. There's a lot of stuff in here that are really neat. There's a lot of really good illustrations. It's really cool. And here, there's an exploding doorknob. Okay, so you fail to unlock it, and the doorknob turns into the spiked mace and explodes in your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that's crazy, but that's really cool.
Item traps. So you've got the looking glass.
Oh man!
And maybe it detects his magic.
Yeah.
It detects his magic, know. So the person puts it up to their eye and trying to focus it, and the screw comes down and impales him in the eye.
Oh my goodness, that is crazy.
Scary traps. Oh, then there's the Moviola one, which is actually, as you watch it, you have this beautiful dancer. And as you keep watching it, she unveils her thing, and she's a Medusa and turns you to stone.
Turns you to stone.
Yeah.
Oh, what a trap.
So.
Yeah.
So dungeon, it can't just, you've got item traps, not just dungeon
traps or things like that. Yeah. So you start with something like this, and this is really cool. Looked like they've been around for a while.
Yeah.
So if you look at them, so copyright 1981 by Flying Buffalo Incorporated.
Right. And I'm sure these are still available. I'll post links if I find them and where you can get them. I'm sure you can probably even get them on PDF.
Attention. The traps in this booklet are designed for game purposes only. Actual construction of these traps might prove harmful, and such construction is strongly discouraged. Yeah, I bet.
Because you just know someone's
going to work on that exploding doorknob thing.
Let me make one of these traps.
Yeah.
So these are just some, and then brainstorm and just like, okay, what would be a cool trap for this dungeon?
Yeah.
It's like the terracotta one.
Oh yeah.
That was one.
And they can be dungeon specific. Like you could be in a Egyptian style tomb and have sand traps.
Right.
Or you could be on an island surrounded by water and have water traps.
Right.
Or you could be even in like a wizard's tower or something and have magic traps. So they can be location specific.
Right. Or even in the wilderness.
Right.
Somebody has pit traps, pit traps.
Yeah,
snares, spike traps.
Things. Yeah. So that would make too something more primitive for the wilderness. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe somebody's out there hunting, they set up spike traps, or maybe they're trying to protect their territory.
Yeah.
Because we know that those are real.
Oh yeah, those are real.
Those are real.
Soldiers who fought in Vietnam ran into a lot of spike traps and things like that, punji stakes. That was always scary, when I was watching movies and reading books about that. It's like always just imagining like stepping on those things and really, injuring yourself terribly. It's just
John Wayne's Green Beret.
The Green Beret, yeah.
But then you have landmines.
Oh,
landmines are a form of trap too.
They are too. They are, yeah. They're a form of trap.
Yeah, so they do exist.
Yeah.
And when it comes to traps, you don't want to just say you find nothing. Give it a little air of mystery, like you see some of the mortar on the ground, or the dust seems a little bit heavier, or you feel a wisp of wind, and just kind of throw the party off if they fail.
Yeah, you do that when you have that. Your thing is like the dust is always heavier in this area, or the dust seems lighter against the wall, and I remember going through that thinking.
Or you think you see some faint writing on the wall, but as you go to observe it.
Yeah, why would the dust be lighter right next to the wall? It's because the wall is made to close in, and it crushed somebody before, and then it withdrew and reset, and that's why. So
you give a little bit of description. Now there's other books too besides this, which is the Raging Swan Press, and this is kind of a fun one. DM's Miscellaneous Dungeon Dressings, and this is all tables of random things that you can have in your dungeon, and it does include traps and other cool things. So you can use this to randomly create or just throw out to your party. So it's kind of a fun little book to have, and you can find this on Amazon. You can get it on Raging Swan Press in PDF and buy the books. And they have more than just the dungeon dressings. They have wilderness dressing. They have urban dressing.
Bucket of acid. Okay, there's a trap. Crushing door. False hallway. Door-mounted crossbow, teleport splitter. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of traps.
Yeah, and they even have some free,
magic mouth trap.
Some free stuff you can get. 10 things to say when a PC makes a perception check and finds nothing. Spiderwebs cluster thickly in one corner. As you watch, the whole mass seems to pulsate and move, as if disturbed by air moving through some of the hidden niches or cracks.
That's cool. That sets up this air of tension.
Yeah, the floor doesn't seem completely flat. Several parts are slightly higher than the surrounding area. Oh, we know that things settle.
Sure they do. Sure. Especially maybe over a trap, they may settle down slightly. Yeah.
So you give them an air. And these are fun things. And this is all free stuff from Raging Swan that I printed out and stuck in this book.
That's neat. Yeah, that's like a resource book that you made yourself.
And it's, pickpockets, 10 triggers for a secret door.
Yeah.
Secret doors are kind of a form of trap even.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think any DM who, sets up stuff for a long period of time is going to have some resource books like that.
Now, one thing I want to throw out there as a dungeon master, it's best not to actually give a physical puzzle to somebody, because you may have somebody who's fantastic with puzzles, and you get some people who couldn't put a puzzle together if it was for their life, and maybe if you gave them a long enough time.
I mean, I'm not good with puzzles. I'll admit. I'm just not good with it.
And then you break away from the role play part of it because maybe somebody's got an 8 intelligence and they're really good at puzzles. And then that person they get handed the puzzle and they figure it out. Well, that doesn't really add up. Now, if you say it's the party solving it, that's different. That's a little bit different.
That allows an out. That allows the whole party to get together and put their heads together and then solve it. Yeah. And
I actually had plans for a puzzle like that in one of our adventures. I had 2 parts of it. There was a little ball you had to move through a maze, and I made sure it could be done before I was going to give it to the party.
Okay.
And it would be somebody in the party could, it's like, you're good with puzzles, and we're just saying it's the whole party doing it, and then there was a second part of it where you had to match up numbers.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember the ball thing that we had to do.
Well, you never got to that part.
Well, but
You saw me playing with it.
Yeah, I saw you playing with it. Yeah, I remember that.
To make sure it worked. So if you're going to do puzzles that way, make sure it's not person geared, it's party geared.
Yeah, yeah.
So that the party can solve it. Because otherwise, you may have somebody, like you said, in the group who's not good at puzzles, and they're the character who's smart, and everyone says, well, you got to do it. Well, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Right.
So
I think we're going to end this episode of Wizards of the Tower.
role play.
About traps and locks. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, spread the word. And if you have traps and puzzles that you have thrown in your adventure and you like, let us know about them. We'd like to hear about them.
Yeah.
Or if you don't believe in them, like we've had somebody say that they don't believe in traps in their dungeon. To each their own.
Sure.
But anyway, may all your adventures be epic.
And keep on rolling.
Thanks, folks.